From very ancient times to this day, dragon mythology persists in many cultures around the world. Except Indians, Africans, Southeast Asians, and Mayans, all other cultures of the world are having dragon mythology. Obviously, there are numerous types of dragons. However, we shall classify them as of two major types. One is the Eastern dragon of the kind like Chinese dragon, and the other is the Western dragon of the kind associated with the Saint George of Christianity. The Eastern dragon is considered a symbol of imperial power and prosperity, while the Western dragon is considered mostly as evil. In this video, for the first time, we are going to crack the real identity of the dragon and the reason for the different perceptions about it among different cultures. The sequential method of presentation of this video is as follows. We would describe the simplified general features of the two major types of dragons. We would then present the fact as to what the dragon actually means. We shall then substantiate this fact with the proofs using available materials about it. We shall first describe the general features of this Chinese dragon. It has a long snake-like appearance with a scaled body and four legs with a bird-like claws and two horns on its head. Most of the times, it has a pearl with it or always associated with the pearls. They don't breathe fire often, however, they occasionally do, as is seen from this Chinese royal painting. The Chinese dragons are known for the past 7,000 years and proven by archaeological evidences. However, it should have been known for the past 10,000 years, as you would agree when I reveal its identity. The dragon is considered a royal symbol and adorns palaces and the robes of the emperors of China. The Chinese emperor and the people of China think that they are the descendants of the dragon. It's a very important fact that should be kept in mind. The Chinese dragon is associated with rain, agriculture, and prosperity. It is also associated with the flood and storms, as it is said to save people from such a phenomena. In fact, there are 4 dragon king gods related to the 4 seas of China. The dragon is associated with the calendar, as the most important occasion that dragon dance performed is on the occasion of the Chinese New Year Eve. The Chinese calendar is luno-solar calendar, and the year begins somewhere in the period between winter solstice and vernal equinox. The Western dragon has variety of depictions and combines the features of snake and bird, and hence most depictions are with wings. The Western dragon often breathes fire. These dragons are considered evil, and hence there was always a hero who triumphed over it. The prominent one such in Christianity is Saint George. Some of the Western dragons are also seen as sea animals. The Western type of dragons are also known for 7,000 years. We have seen that the Eastern dragons are loved by all, and it is said to bring fortunes. It is associated with kings and emperors. It is associated with the calendar, seasons, rains, and agriculture. On the other hand, the Western dragon brings evil to people, and hence any story on them is always associated with a hero who rescues people from the evil dragon. Hence, when we explain what the Western dragon is, we have to explain about these heroes too. Having described the general features of the dragon, we shall set out to find their true identity. Shiva was the ancient Siddha god who lived more than 15,000 years ago. He is present in all cultures of the world, even if most cultures are not aware of it. The next ancient Siddha god was Muruga, and he is also present in all cultures, even if some of the cultures are not aware of it. He lived about 10,000 years ago, and he lived when the deluge happened in Kumari continent, called as Lemuria by the West. I have established through earlier videos that it was Murugan who invented agriculture. Before initiating agriculture, he was the king of herders, herding cows. Agriculture is associated with rain, especially so as Murugan did only dryland farming initially. Moreover, agriculture in general depends upon seasons. Hence, he developed the rudimentary form of seasonal calendar, the tropical calendar. He brought prosperity to his people through agriculture. To safeguard his prosperous people from the looting raids by uncultured tribes, he developed a martial art form. Obviously, he became the protective deity and called as war god. One of his names, Kumaran, is the abbreviation of the phrase meaning the people of Kumbalai Maritha Kandam, which means the descendants of mass demise, and proves that he lived through the deluge. I would make a detailed video soon on deluge and Murugan. Thus, he wasn't born in Lanka but moved to Lanka from the submerged region of Kumari continent along with his people. Hence, he was seen as the protector of people from the floods. As he lived through the deluge, he encouraged people to have as many children as possible to compensate for the huge loss of humans due to the deluge. Hence, he is being worshipped as the god of fertility and was associated with the lingam and phallus. He initiated the second Tamil Sangam and his capital city was called Kavadapuram. The oysters are called Kavadu in Tamil. As pearl diving was practiced in his seaside capital city, it was called Kavadapuram after Kavadu, the oyster. Hence, Murugan is associated with pearls. That is why he is being called as Muthukumaran, Muttarasan, Muttusami, etc. The goddess Meenakshi, representing both agriculture and fishing, seems to have originated in Lanka itself in his times itself. That is why Murugan is also associated with the fish, as also seen from Islamic Al-Qidr. As Murugan is a war god, he is associated with the peacock, cock, and goat, all being fighter animals. If these animals just symbolize that he was a war god, any one of them would have been sufficient. The fact that all these animals are associated with him indirectly portrays the fact that he could have used these animals for guerrilla type of attack on his enemies. Lastly and importantly, Murugan is associated with the snake, representing the fact that he mastered Kundalini Yoga. Shiva is also associated with the snake for the same reason. Thus, the snakes associated with the Shiva and Muruga are nothing but the snakes that are found in the caduceus. The caduceus snakes represent Kundalini, and that is also snakes seen with the Egyptian gods and kings. One more important fact has to be kept in mind. When Murugan initiated farming by burning palm forest, the mountain Kauravas of Lanka opposed him. Hence, they had to fight a battle to establish their say. There was such a battle, and Murugan won over the Kauravas of the mountain. This battle is celebrated as Panguna Theorem on the full moon day in the Tamil month of Panguni. Panguna Theorem means valiantly subduing the mountain Kauravas. Murugan developed agriculture after his victory by burning palm forest and developing the land. Murugan also created 7 conceptual female deities, and one of them was Pachayamma, the green goddess representing farming. She was also called Valli after Velli, the Tamil name of planet Venus, which is associated with this green deity. Thus, after the war victory, as Murugan tilled the agricultural land, represented by Valli, the green goddess, it was metaphorically portrayed that Murugan tilled Valli, that is, married Valli, after the war victory. This battle and the wedding is reenacted every year on Panguni Uttaram Day in Kumarakkoil temple in southern Tamil Nadu. The point to remember is that Murugan married goddess Valli after his war victory. Another point to remember is that Murugan is known for fire, as he torched the palm forest to convert it as farming land. As he is known for fire, he is worshipped as Agni Devan, and the fact that Agni Devan is actually Murugan is identified by the goat, which is originally the carrier of Murugan and hence also the carrier of Agni Devan. We now understand the role of carriers of gods as they help retain history. As Murugan was an ancient god known from the times of deluge, he was known to all civilizations of the world. However, each civilization called him by different names and different forms. For example, Yasudis called him Tausi Melek and worshipped him as peacock. The Egyptians called him as Amun and worshipped him as a ram. The Philistines worshipped Murugan as a fish god and called him Dagan and identified him by human fish composite form. Babylonians worshipped him as Marduk and also as Bel god. He was called Tammuz in Sumeria. He was also worshipped as a Baal god by the Canaanites. He was called Al-Qidr in Islam. Murugan was also associated with Christianity, and we would come to that point soon. Now the point is, how was he called by the ancient Eastern people? In what form was he worshipped? We know that Murugan is associated with the snake representing his Kundalini power. Murugan as a war god was associated with the peacock, cock and goat. Using these animals, let us work out a new symbolic representation for Murugan. To the Murugan's snake, add the two legs of the peacock, add two more legs of the cock, add the horns of the goats. The net image is the dragon, a symbol of Murugan. Murugan was the god of fire, that is Agni Deva, and hence this dragon is fire emitting. Murugan's capital city was called Kavadapuram, meaning Pearl City, and obviously the Chinese dragon is associated with the pearl. Murugan was a great king, and obviously this dragon symbol of Murugan became the imperial symbol of China. As Murugan initiated agriculture, his people were prosperous, and hence this dragon symbolized prosperity. As Murugan invented rudimentary form of the tropical calendar, dragon is associated with the calendar, and this is remembered by the dragon dance all over China on the New Year Eve. As Murugan planned his cultivation on suitable rainy seasons, he was also the god of rain, and thus the dragon is associated with rain. As the ancient Chinese people migrated to the Chinese region from Lanka, they called themselves as the descendants of Murugan and hence the descendants of dragon. As Murugan saved his people from the drowning land in Lemurian floods, dragon is worshipped as the god of oceans. We have thus explained all the features of the Chinese dragon. We now have to work on the etymology of the name dragon of Murugan. In ancient times, people lived mostly on the mountains, even though a relatively small population was living on the ground. The small ground population would have been living under the local chieftains only, and they could not be called as states. Hence, the major ancient kingdoms existed only on the mountains. They were called Malanadu in Tamil. However, Murugan migrated to Lankan region along with the survivors of the deluge of the Kumari continent. Obviously, these people chose to live on the ground as mountains of Lanka were already populated by people called Parayas and Kauravas. Hence, Murugan became the first king of the ground people. Actually, in the post-deluge world, he was the first king of the ground people. Hence, he was specifically addressed as the ground king, a new reality. Tarai means ground in Tamil. Kon means king, especially the herder king. Yes, only the herder king was called Kon. Hence, ground king of the herders would be called in Tamil as Tarai plus Kon, Tra plus Kon, Dra plus Kon. Drakon, dragon. Hence, Murugan was called as a dragon in ancient Lanka. This is the original etymology of the name dragon. The Chinese called the dragon as long. As the language is monosyllabic, the trailing syllable of dragon, kon, was used to address it, and it might have deformed to long. Kon, long. Kon, long. Hence, we could understand the physical feature of the dragon, and we could also understand how the word dragon originated. Even though I have satisfactorily explained the name and the features of the dragon as pointing to Murugan, I can provide further proof that dragon meant Murugan. Let us take the European dragon. The most common feature of the European dragon is that they have wings using which they fly. These wings represent the wings of either cock or peacock associated with Murugan. Even though all dragons emit fire, European dragons often emit fire to represent evil, and they are called evil mythical beings. But when they are evil, there is also a hero paired with it to triumph over the evil. It is this hero who is going to provide further info that dragon actually represented Murugan. The methodology of the proof is as follows. We have to first explain how the Western dragon became evil. We then reveal the identity of the hero who rescued people by killing the evil dragon. The combination of these facts would establish the real identity of the dragon. We would now theorize how the dragon became evil in the West. As far as China is considered, all along its long history, it was indeed populated by homogeneous people who spoke same or similar language and hence they worshipped the same deities in the same name and form. Hence, the deities were always considered as protective, adorable deities, as they were really so. But as far as the Middle East or the West, newer migrations kept happening, and they happened to speak different languages, even though they were all related to each other. Though Murugan is the common god of all such people, they happened to worship him in different names and forms as detailed already. However, they weren't aware that they were worshipping the same deity by these different names and forms. When wars broke out between these tribes, it was also seen as a war between these gods, and the victory of either of the tribe was considered as a triumph of one god over the other. In one such war, the side that worshipped Murugan as dragon could have lost the war, and the other side that won the war would call the enemy god, the dragon, as evil. Kindly read about the episode on the Ark of Covenant of the Jews versus the fish god Dagon of the Philistines to generally understand such depictions of gods. Even today, the Christians call the Indian gods as devils. Similarly, dragon came to be labeled as evil, and that practice followed ever since. My theory is proven by the fact that the hero who subdued the dragon happens to be another form of Murugan himself. The typical hero in the Christian era was called Saint George. The Christian legend says that Saint George killed the dragon. The word George means tiller of the soil, that is, an agriculturist, as is shown by this etymology page. One more fact that we come to know of George is that it was an imperial name and was used as given name only by aristocrats initially. The list being shown establishes this fact. Hence, George not only means that he was an agriculturist, he was also a king originally. Thus, the name George should reveal that it means both. We know that Murugan invented agriculture for the first time in humanity, and he was also the king of his people. Obviously, Murugan was called Puvi Arasan. Arasan means king. Puvi means earth in Tamil, and it actually originated out of agriculture, as we would see soon. Hence, Puvi Arasan means the king of the earth. As established earlier, dragon means the king of the ground. Hence, Puvi Arasan and dragon has similar meaning. We would now establish how the Tamil word Puvi means earth through agriculture. We all know that the agricultural plants flower first before yielding their final outputs. As flowering is called blossoming, it was Murugan who made the land to blossom profusely by cultivating it. Blossoming, that is flowering, is called in Tamil as Puvithal. Pu means flower and Puvi means make it to blossom. As Puvi means make it to blossom, the thing that is made to blossom is called Puvi, meaning earth, which is the shortened form of the word Puvi. Puvi, Puvi. That is how earth got its name Puvi in Tamil, and it originated from tilling the soil. As a related fact, even the English word earth originated from Tamil word Erudu, which means bull. Erudu was called so as it climbs over the female for copulating. Erudu, Erudu. As Erudu, the bull, is tilling the soil is indirectly called as Erudu, earth, earth. As Erudu is doing the hard labor of tilling the soil, ergon, the Latinized form of Erudu, also meant work. We have thus proved that Puviyarasan meant agricultural king, and it was the name of Murugan. We would now establish that the word Puviyarasan deformed to George. The word Arasan, meaning king in Tamil, would deform as Orje. Arasan, Arajan, Oraja, Orja, Orje. The word Puvi deforms to G as follows: Puvi, Kivi, Sevi, Jevi, G. You might think that this derivation, that is, Puvi to G, is far-fetched, but it is not so. I would give an example. The Tamil word for key is chavi. It is this chavi that deformed to key. Chavi, kivi, kiwi, key. Palam kilam, puvi kivi, chavi kivi, Neram Kiram, Mala Kila kind of parallel words are in colloquial use, and this is categorized by a grammar called pseudo-parallelism in Tamil. Similarly, Puvi deformed to Kivi and followed a sequence of sound modifications to become G, meaning earth. Hence, Puvi plus Arasan, G plus or J, George, George. Hence, George is the Slavic version of Puvi Arasan, which is one of the names of Murugan. Thus, Murugan was not only a tiller of soil, but also a king. That is why the name George became the royal name across the globe, and mostly aristocrats named their children as George. The association of royalty with George proves that it originated from Tamil word Puvi Arasan. This name seems to have originated in Slavic nations and later spread to Greek and Rome, and through Christianity to other West European nations. There was one George who is thought to have been born into a noble Christian family in late 3rd century in Cappadocia, an area which is now in Turkey. He followed his father's profession of soldier and became part of the retinue of the emperor Diocletian. The emperor ordered systematic persecution of Christians, and George refused to take part. In 303, he himself was tortured and executed in Palestine, becoming an early Christian martyr. As he became the first martyr of Christianity, he was venerated as Saint George. Just like Jesus was named after Shiva as Isa, which deformed to Jesus, George was named so after Murugan, the Slavic version of Puvi Arasan. In fact, there is a country called Georgia, situated to the north of Anatolia between Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, thus proving the Slavic origin of the name George, even though it was named after Saint George, who was born in Cappadocia near to Georgia. I now have to explain how Saint George happened to kill the dragon. The West, by mistake, was under the impression that dragon meant evil due to the reasons stated already. Ancient Siddha Murugan created fire by torching the forest, and that became the reason for the war with the mountain Kauravas, and Murugan indeed won the war, clearing his way for developing agriculture, which was symbolized as he marrying the green goddess Valli. As this incident happened 10,000 years ago, the Slavic people wrongly assumed that the enemy that George fought against was the fire-emitting dragon, not knowing that dragon itself was Murugan, just like George is. During the Crusades, the Romans came to know that one mythical George, who was actually Murugan, fought and won a war, which was a war for agriculture, and married a princess who was actually the green goddess called Valli. Thus, the West understood that George being a king, he had to marry a princess after the war. They also vaguely remembered that the war involved fire, not knowing that it was created by George himself, that is, the Murugan himself. That is how the George killing the dragon and marrying the princess mythology got developed in the West. Thus, after the Crusades, the Crusaders learned of the mythology of the original George, the Murugan, and the same was appended to Saint George of Christianity, and hence the Saint George of Lydda was portrayed as a slayer of the dragon, which he did not. Thus, after the warrior George became Saint George, the history of war for agriculture that Murugan waged was appended to Saint George, interpreting it as a slaying of the dragon, and Murugan metaphorically marrying the rescued agricultural goddess Valli was interpreted as Saint George marrying the princess whom he rescued from the dragon. This establishes that dragon meant Murugan. In this video, we have used the Christian era dragon to prove it to be Murugan. In my next video on dragon, I would use the ancient Middle East dragon to unquestionably prove it to be Murugan.